Let's pray. In this moment, we want to recognize and acknowledge the intelligence and the power that creates black holes. Black holes big enough to take in stars larger than our sun and completely transform it to something we can't see. That very same energy and power and wisdom and intelligence is flowing through you and I today. And it goes right by if we don't acknowledge it. And in this moment, we say yes to that energy, to that life force called the Tao. Every bit of the energy and power that was available to that black hole is available to you and I. As we recognize, acknowledge it, we will begin to realize it and live it. And in this moment of silence, just say yes, even if you don't know what it is. But in the acknowledgement, it begins to work. Yes to life. And so it is. Namaste. Before we get started on 26 through 30 verses of the Tao Te Ching, I want to talk just a minute about what we're going to be starting in June 6th. You've seen it in e-news. You're going to see more information. Some of you have ordered the book and have trouble getting it, The Desire Factor. It's the #1 new thought release, and they already have run out of two publishing lots. There's more on the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking that book and I'm connecting it with the 7 universal laws of creation. And when you put the laws together and the how to do together, you really truly become energy masters. And we're seeing spirituality today in 2021 moving from religion to spiritual now to understanding how to create the energy to change anything in your life. Over the last week, I wrote an article with Justiana's help for Natural Awakening. And in there, we followed up with the ad at the very end. And a gentleman who read it had just gone through a massive heart attack. And recognized, and had contacted me, and recognized that he brought the massive heart attack. Now, I don't know about you, but it took a lot more than one article for me able to get to the place that I have created everything that's come in my life. But that's what this is about. #1 is we're going to release what blocks and resistance stand in the way of all the good coming. And then the second part of the second workshop is going to be how to enhance it and bring the energy level up so that we can short circuit the timing. So I've said this before and I'll say it again. In my 20-some years of doing this, this is the most powerful work that I've ever done, personally. And I'm so excited about the opportunity to do it in a group. So whether one shows up or 100, it doesn't matter to me because I know exactly who needs to be here will be here. But I think at the end of July, you're going to look back on that time. It's going to be time well spent. So let's get into this week. As we're now moving into we're getting almost halfway through the Tao Te Ching. I'm hoping as you've been following along and if you've been studying and enhancing in your own lives, you're beginning to see shifts. The thing about the Tao and the work of the Tao Te Ching, the shifts are subtle. They're not like in your face kind of shifts. But as you begin to own it and you begin to marinate in the understanding of the difference in the energy flow, you begin to see these shifts starting to show up. And they first show up in your mind, affects your emotions, which is your energy, right? Emotions are E, energy in motion. And that's how we began to create in the world, co-create, is by whatever energy we have that we're emoting into the universe. So let's see what we found as we go along. I'm going to keep coming back to this all through June and July. What you know about yourself, what you know about the universe is only 4%. We know that through quantum physics. This is about getting to know about the 96%. And everything is energy, that's all there is to it, Einstein says over and over again. And we're going to hold that in front of us because you're energy and you never die. You're eternal. And what you project comes back in this universe of the boomerang. Like attracts like. Everything that happens in the universe, everything that happens in your life is from the attraction of the energy of you. And for a long time in unity, we made great strides in understanding the thought, but we didn't understand the emotion side. And many of us grew up like I did. You know, big boys don't cry, stuff emotions. And the emotions are the most important piece as we go to become the energy masters of our own lives. So I kind of took Chardine's quote from way back when. We are energy beings having a physical experience, not physical beings having an energetic experience. You're going to see this a lot in June and July. What I love about it is where do you see the pure Tao on the spectrum is getting up near above blue, going into the violet. That's why the Tao Te Ching is so important to me, is that teaching is taking us up out of the red and the orange and the green and the blue and into the ultimate consciousness. You can see on the side there where fear is, and worry and anxiety. And what we're moving to is, as we become masters of this energy, we can move it up the spectrum. And we've been living 24/7 in a much higher place. And it's all about understanding where we are in the spectrum in this moment. You can do affirmations, 1,000 a day, and your energy's down in red and orange and yellow. You can do affirmations, you can write them, you can do visual boards, you can do magic tricks, you can stand on your head. Nothing's going to change until we change the energy. And so that's the process leading up to it. We're doing the Tao Te Ching. So let's go to verse 26. The heavy is the root of the light. The still is the master of the unrest. Realizing this, the successful person is poised and centered in the midst of all activities, although surrounded by opulence, never swayed. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. To be restless is to lose one's self-mastery. Anybody ever been flitting around? Because that's why we call it the Taoists. They started this. They call it the monkey mind. Anybody else have a monkey mind? Goes in all kinds of directions, like get back in your cage, right? No, I'm going to take over control of this. That's what he's talking about here, is we've got to stay in touch with our root for self-mastery. Being advised to maintain a sense of serenity regardless of what you may see around you. This is the sage. This is the master of our lives. No matter what happens out there. So we label it, do we not? Well, that was a good experience, that was a bad experience. That was a good person, that's a bad experience. What part of you labels experience? What part of you? Ego. It's not the Tao, it's not the divine within you, it's not spirit. So what does spirit do with that bad person? Nothing. Lets the bad person bring whatever the bad person wants to bring. Remember, it's like attracts like. You say, well, I look at those people who act like that and they don't ever seem to. Oh, yes, they do. The wheel turns slowly, but is never mocked. It is exact. You don't often see sometimes what's going on to that person who may have done that. But our ego's the ones that wants to label, and we move back from labeling. What is left is, it is what it is. There it is. It's okay. That is a place of peace, centeredness, grounded. If we allow the ego to stop the labels, the ability to stay calm is always centered within you. You have this ability built inside you, and I do too. When you say, when I was in the midst of that storm this week, it didn't feel like I had that ability. No, I get that. But that's when we have to learn to be still and not be engaged in the old habits of doing what we were domesticated to react to when we were young by parents and teachers or whatever. We have to disengage. I have to take a deep breath. You got to say, wait a minute. Do I really want to go down that path that I've always gone down? And that's when you begin to take mastery of this. What could feel better? I want you to hear this piece. What could feel better than going through life, the rest of your life, knowing that you have the freedom to control all your emotions? Never to have your emotions get out of whack again. The sage, the masters, the energy masters live like this. You can too, so can I. But we first have to set the intention that that's where we want to be. And not continue to do the same thing we've been doing. Because if we continue to think and feel the same way we've been, we'll get what we've been getting. Always. The law is perfect. So where is the leverage? Where to begin to change? Change has to happen inside. And it begins with setting intention that absolutely no matter what occurs in my life this week, I'm going to stay in control of my emotions by understanding it's nothing but energy and motion. What do we do when we have negative emotions or something happens? We make it a mountain. We make it bigger than it is. We have to tell everybody. We tweet it, we put it on Facebook, we call our... That's making it bigger. The way we pull it back to center and stay centered is by going a different way to become the sage and the master. Do you want to host the divine this week, or do you want to be hostage to the ego? We get to choose. There is no one else in the universe can choose for me but me. And the same for you. And when we begin to take that place where these circumstances, these people, the things that are occurring out there are not in control of how I feel. You are well on your way up that scale we just saw. You're well on your way to the master. Well on your way to the sage that is not ever knocked sideways because of that. Vow to seek a calm inner response to all circumstances in your life. And he says this in the verse. Do not lose touch with your root. Where's your root? Inside you. In your heart space. Don't lose touch with that. When I'm up in my monkey mind, when I'm up in labeling, I am not in touch with my root. I am disconnected. Take a deep breath. Settle in. If you do that and not engage this, 90 seconds, and I promise you, if you try this, I will be proven true. If you do not engage your mind and begin to analyze it or connect it to a past event to make it even bigger, it will be gone in 90 seconds. It spins right out of your body. Unless you intellectually engage. And then you've told the universe, well, that thing I've labeled bad and as crappy as I'm feeling right now, that's what I want more of. Bring some more in to me. It's exactly what we're saying to the universe. And the universe always delivers exactly what you put out. There's so much power in knowing this. I mean, at first it's like, oh man, I wish it wasn't that way. This is a lot of work. It'd be a whole lot easier if, when you get to the place where you understand this, the power is understanding it, because now we can make changes on the fly. We can make changes wherever we are, whether we're at work, or we're having dinner, or we're on the golf course, or driving, or whatever it might be. We're in control of those mastery, sage of the emotions. We can move on. Wayne Dyer said this about it. This is his affirmation. I have the ability to stay poised and centered regardless of what happens. I like that. That's a place of power. That's owning your life in the moment, but it's also going to create some incredible future for you. Because what is the future? Nothing but more here and now, right? Here and now, here and now, here and now. Builds future. And if we're coming from this place, it's a place of power, and we're going to see our future develop into something that's so much greater than what we have today if we stay here. Here's the do the Tao. I've talked about forgiveness in my own life. I'm one of those people that seems to have to need really big lessons. You know what I'm talking about? The little lessons don't seem to get my attention, so it's like, okay. I mean, Oprah always said, God either whispers in your ear, right? Taps you on the shoulder, and then takes a 2x4. Well, I don't believe God takes 2x4s, but I would say life does. Life brings me a 2x4 when I'm not listening and I continue to do the things that I've done in the past, and it's not what I want. So take someone that you have a long-standing conflict with. It can be family, it can be friends, it can be whoever it is. And close your eyes, sit down with them, and see them across from you. And actually say this to them. I forgive you, I surround you with light and love, and I do the same for myself. Now, you can do this one of two ways. You can take someone who just creates a little niggling in you, or you can take that one person that this has been going on for a long, long time. Take the biggest one that you have an energy conflict with and try it. And this is always my go-to, because some people take little. They want to take a little because they want to feel good and have some success with it, and then they get some belief in it and some trust in it. I'm the other way. I want to take the biggest one I know. If I'm going to put the work into it, I want to get the big one. And when it works there, you know it'll work for all the rest. So everybody is oriented in one of two ways usually. Take a little one, make it happen, then take more. I'm like, let me take the big one. So you choose whichever one, but do this work, because everybody has somebody. And once you know how to do this, you're free. You move from the bondage of unforgiveness into a place of freedom. And as you go through your list of people that are still charging you negatively, you want to do this. And you want to get to the place there is no more. You say, really? Does that happen? Yeah, it does. And you got to keep working at it because people show up. Right? Feel the working of the Tao. There's no unforgiveness in the Tao. There's no unforgiveness in spirit or source. And if you and I are holding unforgiveness, we are disconnected from source. There's no other way around it, because the energies are not compatible. Forgiveness and unforgiveness, two ends of the same stick, never come together. So as we begin to do this work, we find that place, a sense of calm that comes over us. And it's like, okay, it's all good. And that person can do whatever they want to do, but I am not going to be entangled or engaged in that any longer. Verse 27, a knower of truth travels without leaving a trace, speaks without causing harm, gives without keeping an account. The door he or she shuts, though having no lock, cannot be opened. The knot he or she ties, though using no cord, cannot be undone. Be wise and help all beings impartially, abandoning none, waste no opportunities. This is called following the light. What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? What is a bad man but a good man's job? If the teacher is not respected and the student is not cared for, confusion will arise, however clever one is. This is the great secret. We've talked about the paradoxes in the Tao Te Ching. Bad man, good man. Bad woman, good woman. And we typically have been domesticated to put a but in there. And what the Tao Te Ching does over and over again is put an and. Good and. Both can exist. But it's how you and I interact with that and interface with those labels is what creates the big secret for us. The knower of the truth lives by this inner light. This light will always guide you and direct you if, and I capped it here, because you have to ask and then listen. But we go through so much in our patterns of the habits of the past that we forget to stop and ask, how should I be with that person? How should I be with myself around this situation? There is no detail too small to be answered for you and me. But it will never be answered until we ask. That's why we've been given free will choice as human beings. We get to choose. Do I want to do it out of my little ego mind? Or do I want to take a breath, stop, and ask for the divine? That's my choice. And it's a choice you have. Become a knower of the truth by forgetting all the locks, chains, maps, and plans. You know, notice how many times in the Tao Te Ching that it kind of just throws out all the stuff we spend our lives doing and we were taught to do. Well, you need a map. No, you don't. Get in your car and drive. Ask guidance. Oh my, really? Yeah. All-knowing, all wisdom. Well, hold on, I'll just put it on my GPS on my phone. I'll make sure, just checking just in case divine isn't quite sure what road I should take. We can't even trust to get to the right place by asking the divine. Here's a challenge for you. Get in your car someday this week and have no map, have no GPS, and go somewhere you've never been before. Now that takes trust. And don't peek. No cheating. And watch where you end up. Will you end up where you thought you needed to be? I don't know. But you will end up where you ought to be, where you need to be, for a reason you may not even know when you got there. That's getting on the water buffalo and trusting life will bring you exactly what it's to bring. Throw away the maps and chains. Trust in yourself. Don't judge others or yourself. Why not become the one person who chooses to see themselves and others as both teachers and students? Are you and I both? Are we not both? We are teachers to some and students to others. That's a very, very healthy place to be in life. Because if you ever hear inside your head saying, I've got this, look out. Because you've got a lesson coming. What before the fall? Right? Pride before the fall. When you hear your ego saying to you, because that's the only place, Spirit, the divine, is not going to say, I got this. Because it already is. There's nothing to get. But when you hear that, you know what that voice is. That's the voice of your ego telling you got this. You've mastered this. I don't need to go to that class. I already got it. Look out. The most healthy place to come from is I don't know. Show me. I don't know. Show me what I'm to learn here. Show me how I'm to interact with that person. That stays in the path. That stays in the Tao. That stays in the flow of the river. I love this one. This is Chavez. As you know by now, I love his poems. At some point, your relationship with God will become like this. Next time you meet him or her, God, in the forest or in a crowded city street, there won't be any more leaving. That is, God will climb right into your pocket and you will simply take yourself along. 1500 AD in the Persian desert. What's he saying here? You and I keep looking for God out there. We keep looking at that holy person over there in the street, in the forest. Never to be found. Why? Because it's you. It's already in your pocket. You can't leave God, right? Because you already are. Just amazes me when you think about all the years that have gone past. If only we would have stopped and learned what these incredible spiritual teachers were teaching so many thousands of years ago, what a different world we would have. We'll get there. Wayne Dyer says this about this verse. What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? What is a bad man but a good man's job? Think about that the next time you go to label someone bad. Say, oops, I just made them my job. Do you really want that job? But that's what we do. And that energy is set up that way when we do judge. So here's do the Tao this week. Find one, quote, bad person and do something good, in quotes, for them. Could be a stranger living in a jail cell. Random acts of kindness do amazing things, not for them, but for you. He or she is now your now assignment. So watch yourself this week. Watch who you label as a bad person or the bad this or bad that, and recognize you just signed yourself up for an assignment. Interesting way to look at life and how we treat people. Verse 28, know the strength of men, but keep a woman's care. Be a valley under heaven. If you do, the constant virtue will not fade away. One will become like a child again. Know the white, keep to the black, and be the pattern of the world. To be the pattern of the world is to move constantly in the path of virtue, without erring a single step, and to return again to the infinite. One who understands splendor while holding to humility, acts in accord with the eternal power to be the fountain of the world, is to live the abundant life of virtue. There's a lot of words in this one. As you can see in the middle of the Tao Te Ching, it got wordier. The beginning was kind of short, and the end gets short. When the unformed is formed into objects, you and I were unformed before we came here. We will return to unformed. But when we're in the form into objects, its original qualities are lost. If you preserve your original qualities, you can govern anything. Truly the best governor governs last. So what was your original qualities? Where did you come from? We've talked about that in the last couple of weeks. So virtue here is synonymous with nature, or the Tao, or the divine, or the path, or the way. They're all talking about the same thing. So when you have your personal path be the Tao-oriented way, when you make that commitment, you have to set that intention. You have to say, this is a shift, and this is the way I'm going to live my life going forward. And things then begin to shift and get in alignment with that energy you're putting out. Living virtuously is what we do when we flow with the Tao. So when you see the word virtue, that's what he's talking about. It's on this path, in this flow of the divine, allowing the ego just to be quiet. And when it isn't quiet, threaten to put it in the water. It doesn't like water. Put it in the river. And as you become more settled and more peaceful, you will find all these virtues that he's talking about. He described living these in 4 images. One being a valley under the heavens. So what's in a valley? It's fertile, right? The river's flowing through it. It's green. It's got flowers and trees. And you and I can be that fertile. We can be that virtuous if we're in the flow. Not when it's obstructed. Be the pattern. We know what the patterns are in the world. But we also want to act in accord with the power of our root, with what we were before we got here. What we were in the formless or spirit, whichever words you want to use, those qualities is what we bring forth now. We begin to live that life called heaven here on earth. That's preserving your original qualities. And I keep bringing this back up because it reminds us to do the exact opposite of what you were domesticated to do. We were domesticated out of ego, were we not? Your parents, your teachers, your priest, whoever it was, did the absolute best they knew to do at that time. But most of what our training was is out of ego, not out of the flow, not out of the Tao. And that says we're learning how to do this. And the bottom line here in all this is replace all negativity with love. If we do nothing but that, and I say nothing in all caps, because that's a big job. If we can take everything that's happened to us during the week that we label negative or we label bad and begin to flip it into how is it love and how can I love it, we watch all of that begin to go away. This is a verse out of the New Testament that is almost never preached on. And you got to ask yourself why. Why wouldn't the ministers want to preach on this? Well, let's see what it says. And this is Jesus, the master teacher, talking, right? Father was his word for the divine within him, the Tao. He says, and now, Father, glorify me. Glorify me means light me up. Fill me with light, fill me with love. Glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began. How many of you had a minister ever preach on this? No, this verse scares Jesus out of that. Because they don't know how to explain this. How in the world could Jesus say to the Father, to the divine, glorify me with the light and love as I was before the world was even started? The proof was written that it's eternal. The proof is written that we are energy that never ever dies. And the proof is that we can live. Remember what else he said later on? He said, everything that I ever did, you can do and more. So if he could live like this, you and I can live that way. That's what he's telling us, or he wouldn't have told us if we couldn't. But we can live in the glory of what we were in the formless before we had to show up here in the physical, in this planet of lessons, thinking that we were separated from that energy, that intelligence, that power called source, and then we had to go on by ourselves here, separated from all that, and try to figure it all out. No, that's not true. It wasn't true 2,000 years ago. It's not true today. You and I can live in the glory, in the light and the love that was here before the world began. And that tells me so was he, and so were you and I, in our souls, in our energy form. Not formless, not matter. Before the world began. I don't know how long ago that was, but that's a long time. I don't have a clue how many millions that was, or trillions, or whatever it was. But you and I existed then. And we will exist forever, eternally. Alpha to Omega, we were told. I don't know about you, but that makes me feel good. That makes me not so concerned whether I'm here 80 years or 85 or 92. Who cares? I'm eternal. This is just a small parenthesis in eternity. I'm going to do the best I can while I'm here, but I know what's happening. And I know what's happening to you and all the people I know in my life. We're all headed there anyway, back to source. Wayne Dyer says this, as I preserve my original qualities, I can do or govern anything I live with radical humility. Anything. There is no limit or lack for you or me unless we believe it, and then we make it true. But the truth is, there is nothing that you and I cannot do if we're living in the flow of that divine. I like putting this one together. Be childlike at least once a day. Giggle when everything is solemn. That'll freak him out, won't it? What's wrong with him? He's not taking this seriously enough. Church is supposed to be serious, and he's laughing. Oh, no. Play rather than work. Be in awe for a moment or two, or just stand and observe the wonder of a spider spinning a web many times its size. Wow. We lose our wonder. We lose our awe. We allow to be pressed down by things that are not true about us. And it's time that we break out of the bondage and fly free. Verse 29, do you think you can take over the universe and improve it? I don't believe it can be done. I know some people who think they can. Hasn't worked out too well. Everything under heaven is sacred, a vessel, and cannot be controlled. Trying to control leads to ruin. Trying to grasp, we lose. Allow your life to unfold naturally. Know that it is too is a vessel of perfection. How many of you were taught that you're a vessel of perfection? You are. They lied to you. You are a vessel of perfection. How could you be anything other than what you were unformed is now here? I have made you in the likeness and the image of perfection. But we have bought into another story that's not true. Just as you breathe in and breathe out, there is a time for being ahead. There's a time for being behind. There's a time for being in motion. And there's a time for being at rest, and a time for being vigorous, and a time to be exhausted, and a time for being safe, and a time for being in danger. I think there was a song written about this, wasn't there? Yeah. And they didn't even give the Tao Te Ching credit. Plagiarism at the worst. To the sage, the master who you and I are becoming, all of life is a movement towards perfection of what need has he for the excessive, the extravagant, or the extreme? Find the middle road. Find a place that provides you peace and happiness. Lao Tzu speaks of a natural law unaffected by ego. We are not in charge here, even though we like to think we are. And I had to share this with you. This is an Albert Einstein quote, as you know. He's one of my spiritual mentors. He says, the scientist's religious feeling takes the form of rapturous amazement at the harmony of natural law, which reveals an intelligence of such superiority that compared with it, all the systematic thinking and acting of human beings is utterly insignificant reflection. This feeling is a guiding principle of the scientist's life and work. Consider one of those brightest men ever, right? He's saying all I'm doing is significantly unimportant, insignificant reflection. It's not the cause, right? What's a reflection? The reflection is the moon. Sun is the cause of the light. The moon reflects it. You're the cause when you look in the mirror, the reflection. It's not even the real thing, all this human thinking that we're doing. It's just an insignificant reflection. I think he put it in perspective, like I've never seen someone who was probably smarter than all of us be able to say about his own intellect. Get inside. Living from this rapture allows us to begin releasing the need for control. Everything under heaven is sacred vessel, needing no input from us. How many of us think we can do it better? We try. We think we can. Right? It is all unfolding according to the natural law. Release it. Let it go. No need to get wigged out and worried. Go with the flow. Contemplate often on the sacredness and the flow of your life. You have always been sustained, have you not? You're here. You made it to today. I don't think you're just going to be dropped on your head at some point in time in this process. Sometimes we think we will. Sometimes we create that because we live in that fear, because the fear, we bring what we fear. Doing the Tao is moving from judgment and criticism to gratitude for the almighty goodness and the perfect flow of life that is flowing through us. Find the middle road. What's the middle road? Not too much that way, not too much that way. Not too high, not too low. Not too over the top, out of control, excited to the bottom of the barrel. Middle road, sustained, in balance, knowing that there's a perfection flowing through you into your world. Give up needing control. Practice recognizing that there is a time for everything, and it's not what you see around you that keeps you in the flow. It's the understanding of how this works. The understanding is what allows you, when anything shows up that's knocking you off course, you understand how it works and how to get yourself back. And that's what we're going to be working on in June and July, is all about the understanding and the process, practical processes to get back in the flow. And again here, Wayne Dyer, there is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, time for being in motion, at rest, being vigorous and exhausted. In a world of duality, we're going to get both. But if we understand the process, we come to middle. Come to the middle road. That's where you want to be as you live through your life. Find a place where control is all consuming for you. And don't tell me you don't have any. You do. So do I. And relinquish it. Let it be. Stifle your inclination to interfere. Remind yourself that you're becoming better at observing than taking over. Oh boy. That'll be a challenge. Step back and just observe. Watch what happens. And I included here a poem. Post this poem. It comes from Naomi Long Madgett. And I just love the way she describes it here. I wouldn't coax the plant if I were you. Such wonderful nurturing may do harm. Let the soul rest from so much digging and wait until it's dry before you water it. The leaves are inclined to find its own direction. Give it a chance to seek the sunlight for itself. Much growth is stunted by too careful prodding, too eager tenderness. The things we love, we have to learn to leave alone. And finally, verse 30. One who would guide a leader of men in the uses of life will warn him against the use of arms for conquest. Weapons often turn upon the wielder. Where armies settle, nature offers nothing but briars and thorns. After a great battle has been fought, the land is cursed, the crops fail, and the earth lies stripped of its motherhood. After you have attained your purpose, you must not parade your success. You must not boast of your ability. You must not feel proud. You must regret that you had not been able to prevent the war. You must never think of conquering others by force. Whatever strains with force will soon decay. It is not attuned to the way. I wish Israel and the Gaza Strip and the Palestinians had learned this verse. I'm not pointing to them because we have done so much the same as our country. But what he's saying here, what Lao Tzu's saying, is force creates counterforce. We know that's to be true. And this exchange goes on and on until all-out war is in progress. But I cannot just look to the Middle East. I have to look within myself and you. I invite you to. This very same principle applies in your personal life. And as war breaks out within you with someone else or within yourself, the death of peace, calm, and harmony will occur. And peace, calm, and harmony is more important to you and I for many reasons, beyond the physical even. That's what we want to stay focused on and bring into our lives. Force includes any physical or mental abuse in which weapons of hate are used. We see a lot of this in our country right now. It must end. I was walking the other day in the woods, and I came upon a youngster about that high with a t-shirt. It said, "It's cool to be kind." And I had the most incredible conversation with him. What does kind mean to you? And how is it cool to you? And I said, I hope you become president of the United States. Because we need more young people who get it, that it's cool to be kind. I thought, what a prophet this young man is, walking right in the woods. And his teacher was behind him. There's about 10 of them. And I mean, she's just beaming because she could hear my conversation with this youngster. And I was like, this is an old soul, wise beyond his years, but he gets it. And he was so proud of the t-shirt he wore. It's cool to be kind. We need a lot more of those in this country right now. Wu Wei is a Taoist term for no force. It's the very same concept that Jesus had, resist not. Eliminate verbal and or physical force in all situations. Refuse to participate in violent actions in any way. St. John of the Cross, 16th century, said this: you might quiet the whole world for a second if you pray. And if you love, and I mean really love, our guns will wilt. We ain't been really loving, have we? As a whole world, or in our country, because our guns are not wilting. If you love, really love. And I love the way he made the distinction here between the difference between praying about it and really, really loving. And what happens in the two. Whatever strains will force will soon decay. I eschew any and all forms of violence. I take the line of least resistance in all my actions. In line with changing your view of the world, release all TV, movies, books, audio shows, video games that have anything to do with violence. Don't allow violence in your mind. Because it's through the light and the love of people who begin to bring conscious energy that we begin to make a change. And we stop the shooting and the killing just in this country, let alone in the world. Do the Tao. Find the peace within so you become the peace in the world. Let's go to silence. As you take a deep breath in, let it out. Let's do another one. As you focus your eyes, raise them up a little. Feel the light and the love flowing down through your mind. This energy that's in your mind right now is the energy and the wisdom and the power and the light which you came from and I came from. As we recognize this divine energy within us, let it flow into your heart space. Feel your heart space begin to expand. It's filling up with unconditional love. You are unconditionally loved. You are infinitely loved. Feel that. And then let it move into your belly, a couple inches above your belly button below. This is your power center of emotion. Feel peace. Feel love. Feel joy. And then let the stream, the water of the Tao, flow out your feet. And as you do, you're blessing those around you in the world, and Mother Earth. And as you let it flow from you, more comes. The nurturing, sustaining flow of the Tao. Centered. from here you know all is well. And so it is. Namaste.